Okay.
See you,
back.
Mayor. Bye for now,
And we
Mayor.
wish Mayor a wonderful day.
Thank you, you too, and everyone else. Thank you.
17th of
October.
January, Rabbi Levitt, Gemora.
Still have these?
Rabbi Levitt, you are muted.
Okay. Okay, welcome back, everybody. Good morning to Phil.
Good morning.
And a happy Tu B'Shvat to you. B'ezrat Hashem. Okay, so yesterday we were in a bit of a trying to figure out what was going on in the Gemora, and B'ezrat Hashem today we're gonna have some clarity.
Amen.
Because I went through this Gemara again yesterday afternoon, and I saw the Tosefta, and it's very clear. It's very clear. So this is how it's going to work. Let's see, just the question is, where we go from? Let's go from the El of Elah Hadasanya with the Kashem. Let's go over there, and we're going to identify that this is the Seifa of the Tosefta that Rava is referring to. It's very clear from the reading of the Gemara that way, and the first Ella was the Reisha of the Tosefta that simply said that when the Isha is choveles in the Bala, then she doesn't lose those lo hefsida ksubasa. We'll see all of that. Okay, so let's see. Lou, you want to read from the Ella Hadasanya?
Allah Hadasanya. But this that we learned in a brisa, Kashem Shalo Im Kor Vihi Tachtav. Just as she cannot sell while she is under him, Kach lo tafsid vihi tachtav. Similarly, she does not forfeit while they are married. Vaha zimnin mashkach la de mafsida. But at times she is found to forfeit. The hechidami, and what is the case? Phil, could you mute, please?
Yeah, let me get to this, but I gotta
Thank you. Kagon de nafisha kisuvasa mi kisuva doraisa. For example, that her kasuba is greater than the statutory kasuba.
Right. Okay, so here the Gemora is bringing the words of the Tosefta, and it's saying a language of kashem. Kashem that she doesn't sell the ksuva as long as she's married to the husband because of Rev Meir. Kach lo tafsid v'hi taftav. So too, she doesn't lose out any portion of the ksuva when she's while she's still married to the husband. And Rashi is going to explain us that that this in the Havamina refers to the case of when, like it says in the Reisha of the Tosefta, when she causes a chabura to her husband. So now let's take a look at Rashi. Keshem shelo timkor. Oh, who's going to read the Rashi? Phil, can you read the Rashi?
You can, if you can put up with the noise in the background. The shame shalom.
Okay, we'll put it up.
Okay, you've also the Komas Salkadaita. It said that you would think Hachi Kama. This is what it says. The shame she'enu yechol, that she's ba'oda tachta, that she shouldn't be able to sell it while she's under his control. Kach also lo tafsid mikatuvata klum. She should not, therefore, she won't be losing anything from a ketubah at all, because shum chavala, any damage that she did to him, the nezek jehazik ba'ototam, that she caused while she was under his domain, so to speak.
Right. So here I want to point out an important thing that Rashi says over here. The Rashi's first words over here, which is 3 letters, Notrikan, Kuf Samak Dalid. This is where Rashi points out to us when he says Ka Soka Daita, Hakika Amar. We're thinking at this point in the Gemora, in this step of the Gemora, that this, Hakika Amar, that this is what the words of this Tosefta are referring to. And when Rashi uses that expression, Kosoka Daita, he means to tell us that, yes, right now, this is the approach, this is the understanding that the Gemara has of the Tosefta, and therefore the Gemara follows through and says, we have a kasha with that, based upon what we just got through saying. It's all because of the fact that this is the way we are right now reading what the Tosefta is meaning. What is the Tosefta meaning over here? The Tosefta is meaning that when it says Keshem, that just like she cannot sell the whole ksuba outright, her mana masayim, her statutory amount, kach lo tafsid miksubasa. So too, says Rashi, this Brisa Tosefta is telling us that she is not going to lose anything at all from the ksuba, nothing, klum. Bishvil shum chavala, miksubasa, bishvil shum chavala v'nezek, on account of any amount of nezek or damage or chavala, injury that she caused her husband while she was still married to him. And like that, if we're going to read the Brisa like that, says Rashi, we're going to have the Gemora's kasha. Now, what's the Gemora's kasha over here? The Gemora's kasha was that, one second, sometimes we do find that we do require her to take a loss from the ksuba. In which case is that, says the Gemora? Kigon. For example, in the following case, the nefisha ksuva sumi ksuva deraisa, where her ksuva is more than the statutory amount of the ksuba, so then we do require her to sell the tosefes, the excess of the ksuba, which is in excess of the 200 or 100, the statutory amount, and that will be in exchange for her payment, paying her obligation to the husband for causing him injury or monetary loss. So like that, the Gemora has a question over here that the Brisa seems to be saying that no, under no circumstances do we require her to take any loss from the ksuba, to have to assign it to her husband. In no circumstance. And we're saying, but we do, but that doesn't seem to be correct, because as long as we're fulfilling the words of Reb Meir, so we would be allowed to acquire her, to assign the excess of her ksuba to the husband to pay for the chavola and the nesek. So that's the kasha right now in the Gemora. And the reason that we say that we require her to do that in that particular case is because the two concerns that we expressed previously in the Gemora do not exist in this case. What are the two concerns? The first concern is that if she's going to sell her ksuba, it's going to make it easier. It's going to make it easy for the husband to divorce her. It's going to be light in his eyes, the divorce, because he doesn't have the money from the ksuba looming over his head. That he's going to have to pay this if he divorces her. And in this case, where she's retaining the statutory ksuba, that's not an issue at all. It's still she can assign the excess, and she'll still have the statutory amount, which according to Reb Meir is acceptable. And number two problem that we had in the previous cases of her assigning or selling the ksuba to a third party, or even to the injured party, if it wasn't her husband, the problem was that she's going to turn around and be mochel the husband's obligation to pay the ksuba, and like that, we're going to cause a loss to the one who purchased the right to the ksuba. But over here, that's not a problem either, because the husband, we're gonna there's not a problem over here either. She's not going to. We're not concerned that she's going to excuse the husband's obligation to pay the ksuba over here. Okay. Now we get to, is that clear so far?
Yeah, except you said in the beginning that we were going to understand what's the ratio and what's the seifa of the brisa.
Okay. So we're going to see right now when we give Rava's answer, we're going to explain what's the seifa and what's the ratio of this tosefta.
Okay, so I just like to clarify, when the brisa says she cannot sell her kesuva, that's because of Rabbi Meir, correct?
Right.
That's the reason she can't sell.
Right.
So it's saying just as she can't sell it because of Rabbi Meir, she can't diminish it because of Rabbi Meir. Is that correct?
Right. In other words, in this, right, it's all the concerns that we had because of Reb Meir. Number one, well, we had actually, when I said that we had two concerns, one of them was the concern of Rebbe Meir, that it's going to be easy for the husband to divorce, easier to divorce if she sells the ksuba or any part of it. And the second concern is that there won't be any accomplishment in having her do this if she's going to turn around and be mochel the husband's obligation to pay it.
So there's those two reasons why she can't sell are also the two reasons why she can't diminish.
Why we don't require her to do this. Right. We don't require her to assign or sell any part of the ksuba, right? And we're saying that in the case where she has a big ksuba, that these two concerns, and we're talking about her assigning the excess to the husband to pay him. He's the injured party over here. In that particular case, neither of these two concerns are concerns.
Right.
So according to the way we're understanding the concerns, we don't understand the Bryce, why the Bryce is so axiomatic in saying that she under any circumstances, there are no circumstances which justify us requiring her to sell any part of the ksuba.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Okay, now we're going to go to Amar Rava, and we're going to read Rava. Rava's going to answer us how to explain what these words that we just quoted from the Tosefta actually are referring to. And like that, we're going to resolve the question that the Gemora has at this point. So, who would like to read Amar Rava? Whoever didn't read it yesterday. Anybody remember who read it yesterday?
Alan.
I read yesterday.
Alan read it. Okay, so Roy, please.
Omar Rava said, Sefer a son. Is that fine? A son.
That's right.
Lich suvas benin de divrin. In the latter case of the brisa, we've come to a case of the kasuba of the male children. V'hachi katane, and this is what the can't get the page. And the hachi katane, and this is what the brisa is teaching. Kashem shehama mocheres kasuvasa la'acharim la hapasida kasuva kanin dichrein. Bryce is teaching that just as a woman who sells her kasuba to others does not lose the kasuba of the male children, May ta'ama, what is the reason? Zuzehu de anasua, because it was money, that is financial concerns, that forced her to make the sale. Kach mochares v'suvasa le bala la. Hapasida kasuvas benin dichrin. So too, a woman who sells a kasuba to her husband does not lose the kasuba of the male children. May kakama. What is the reason? Right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, what is the reason? Zuzehu de Anasua, because we assume it was money, financial concerns that forced her to make the sale.
Okay. So here we have Rava's resolution of the difficulty over here. Rava says that the seifa of this Tosefta is not talking about what we thought it was talking about. This is referring to Rashi that says in Dibur Masla Kashem Shelo Timkor. Rashi says over there, Ko Sokadaita Chachikamar. This is what we thought that this Tosefta was talking about at this stage in the Gemora, which creates the question that the Gemora poses. Rava is now coming along in the next step of the Gemora and saying, no, that's not what the Seifa of the Tosefta is talking about. Now, we have the question, what is the Seifa of the Tosefta? Can anybody answer this question? And I'll give you a hint. If you read the words of Rava's explanation when he says, Hachi Katani, you'll be able to figure out, I believe, what is the Seifa of the Tosefta, because that is what the Seifa of the Tosefta, that's what Rava's saying over there. This is what this means in the Seifa of the Tosefta. And in other words, the Seifa of the Tosefta is referring to what the Gemora just got through bringing when it said Hadasanya, Keshem. Keshem shelo timkor, kach lo tafsid. That is the words of the Seifa of the Tosefta, which created the kasha. And the kasha was based upon the fact that we thought that the Tosefta was talking about the selling, the Isha selling the Tosefis, even the case of where the ksuva is nefisha, that is talking about that case, that she can't even sell the Tosefis of the ksuva. In a case where even if she would sell it, she would still be left with a statutory ksuva. On that, Rava is saying, no, that's not what the Seifa, when it says Kashem Shelo Timkor, Kach Lo Tafsid, that's not what the Tosefta, that's not the case that the Tosefta is referring to. The Tosefta doesn't say explicitly what it is referring to. But Rava is coming and saying that those words of the Tosefta, the Seifa, are referring to, they're referring to a different case entirely. They're referring to the case of Ksuvas Benin Dikrin, the Ksuva of the male children. And you could see that in the way Rava goes on to explain the Seifa of the Brisa. He says, Hachi Katani, and this is the way we're going to explain what the Seifa of the Tosefta is referring to. Not the way that we explained it in the previous step, according to Rashi. Kashem shemoch. See, you have the word kashem, shemocheres. So that resembles the kashem shemocher in the words of the previous brisa that the Gemora brought. And we're saying that kashem shemocheres applies to the following case. This is what it means. Kashem shemocheres suva solacherim, just like when she sells her ksuva to a lokeach, to a third party. Lo hefsida ksuvas benin dikrin. She will not lose. We don't know what the case is right now. Rashi's going to explain us exactly about this ksuvas benin dikrin and what it entails. And but for right now, we're just understanding the words of the answer. What Rava is saying, he's putting in the case of benin dikrin into the interpretation of the Seifa of the Tosefta. Just like she doesn't when she sells her ksuva to a lokeach, she doesn't, the ksuva of the male children is not, doesn't have a fallout. They're going to still get, and we'll see what that means. My timer, and then he explains what is the reason for that, because one might think that it should be otherwise. It should be that that they lose out also, but they don't lose out, and it has to do with she was forced because of monetary considerations. Fine. Then Rava goes on to explain the next part, the next part of the sefer. Kach mocheres ksuva salabala. So too, when she sells the ksuva to her husband, the same thing applies. Lo hefsida, ksuva has been indifferent. She will not, the ksuva that was the provision in the ksuva that made a provision for the male children receiving the proceeds of her ksuva is preserved and remains intact even when she sells the ksuva to her husband. And so like this, Rava has made an accomplishment over here, is explaining that these words of the Tosefta that we just got through reading, when he said Hadasanya, Kashem, do not refer to the case of the woman selling the Tosefis of her own ksuva to her husband. That's not the Tosefta is not referring to that case. The Tosefta is referring to the case of ksuvas benin dichrin. And therefore, at the end of the day, what's going to come out is that the Tosefta does not mean to say that there are no circumstances where the woman would not have any, where the woman would not sell. In fact, in the case where the ksuva is greater than statutory amount, we would require her to sell the ksuva in that case, because, like we said, there's no chashash over there. There's no chashash of the husband hastily divorcing her on account of the fact that there's no ksuva. There is a ksuva, and as far as her being mochel the obligation on the ksuva, there's no reason for her to do that in that case. The husband already owns the right to receive the proceeds of the ksuva because she's assigned it to him. So therefore, there's no issue with that either. So in fact, the according to Rava's answer, the Gemora is concluding that would be a case if the ksuva is a large ksuva, that the Bezdin would require the wife to assign that excess to the husband. And what the Tosefta actually does mean when it says, oh, she doesn't lose on her ksuva, she doesn't lose on her ksuva, that's referring to the case of benin dichrin. Their rights under the ksuva are not lost. That's what the Seifa is talking about, and that's Rava's answer. So now, I just want to make sure that everybody has the mechanics of the answer before we understand. I understand that we don't understand what is all this. What does this mean? The ksuva of the male children. How does it work? And what's the case? And everything like we don't know yet. We don't know yet because that's what we have this long Rashi for.
So I don't understand the Hava Amina. That's why yesterday I kept asking, what is the Seifa? Because it seems to be assuming, it seems to have a Hava Amina about what the Seifa says, which is not what the Seifa says at all.
Well, the Seifa doesn't say specifically which case it is that it's referring to. So the Gemora had a.
I thought we just said the Seifa says, just as a woman who sells her kasuva to others does not lose for the male children, so too a woman who sells her kasuba to her husband does not lose for the male children. Isn't that the seifa?
Okay, so now we got to clarify over here. If you open up a Tosefta in Bava Kama over here, I think we'll appreciate it more what it is that we're saying over here.
Okay, I've got to get my big Gemora to find that Tosefta.
See, the truth is that if you take a look at the words of the Tosefta itself, the words of the Tosefta do not tell us which case it's talking about. It just says a general rule that she doesn't lose her ksuva.
Oh,
And the Gemora thought, oh well, that covers every single case that there could possibly be, and therefore the Gemora was justified in having the Havamina that is talking about even in a case where the ksuva is in excess of the statutory amount. Take a look at right? We got Tosefta, we got Perik Tes, we have Halacha Ches.
Erich Tess.
Tell him I'm busy. Just a joke. Okay.
Okay, I have Perek Tess.
Yeah.
Now,
Now it's towards the end of Halacha Ches. It's not the first words of Halacha Ches. You have to wade through about 10 or so lines until you get to what it says in the Tosefta. And actually, the words of the Tosefta are Ha'isha Shechavla. That's where the Gemora is referring to. Isha Shechavla.
that's what I can't find.
No?
I see Ches, but it says Hachovel Ba'avdo.
No, that's one second.
My problem is I've got a lot of different notations here. I've got brackets, I've got parentheses, I've got bold. I don't know which ones I'm looking at.
Okay. Perik Tes. Halacha Ches. Perik Tes Halacha Ches. Yesterday I was looking in the Oz V'Hadar. Okay, so now the beginning of is your it's page 126. That's where you're on.
126 on the first side.
Right.
126
Right,
on
okay.
the second side. That's where I am. Yes.
Okay, so that Ches over there on the bottom of the first column, that is the beginning of Halacha Ches. But what you got to do is you got to go, let's see. Yeah. Go to the second column
Yes.
and go to the end of the third line from the top.
Aisha.
Isha Shechavla, Babala. Ein mafsedes ksuvasa klum.
Okay, I see it. Now, how the heck did you find it? I have a little bet before Haisha. I don't know what that means.
Yeah, that's not to be concerned about that. That's refers to one of the commentators down here.
Uh-huh. So you just got to know to search through?
Well, in other words, you know that you're in Perek Tes,
Right,
and you know you're in Halacha Ches,
right,
and you see that Halacha Ches goes on for about 10 lines,
right,
and you know, and you know that the Gemora, when it quotes from the Tosefta, is just quoting a few, at most a couple lines, and so therefore you can conclude on your own that that this what the Gemara is quoting is only a small portion of Halacha Ches.
right,
And if you take a look at when you start reading Halacha Ches, and you say, oh, it says Hachovel ba'avdo. Okay, that's not what I'm looking for, but not to worry. I know, I trust the Masoras Hashas. He told me to look in Tosefta Perek Tes, Halacha Ches. So he must know what he's talking about. So I'm going to just keep reading. And I'm going to keep reading until I get to the words that my Gemora is quoting from this Tosefta.
okay, and where do you see the words that the Gemara is quoting?
So I start with Achovel ba'avdo, right? I start over there. And I say, and then I'm skimming through, and I'm looking at what it says over here. This has nothing to do with what our Gemara said. And then I go up to the first line of the second column, and I furthermore see that it has nothing to do with what our Gemara said. And I keep going. I go to the second line, then I go to the third line, and then lo and behold, at the end of the third line, I say, "Oh, Baruch Hashem, I found gold. Here's the words that the Gemara quoted. Ha'isha shechavla."
Okay, I'm
Bava,
asking, where do you see the Gemara quoting Haisha Shechavla?
That's the end of the third line of the second column.
That's in the Tosefta. Where do you see the Gemara quoting that?
Oh, okay. Maybe you're referring to the fact that if you take a look at the exact words of our Gemara, the exact words of our Gemara do not read Ha'isha Shechavla.
That's my problem.
Okay, so now what you have to do is you have to go back to the first Ella that the Gemara quoted. The first Ella that the Gemara quoted,
Yeah,
when it quoted the Reisha of this Tosefta.
right,
Okay. It said Ella, Hadasanya became he Shechavla Babala. You see where that Ella is? It's a few lines up from the Ella that we were reading today.
I see it.
Okay, now, truth to be told, the Gemara is not quoting the words exactly like we have in our Tosefta. Not exact, because over here, the Gemara quotes the words of the Bryce of Ekei Nehi Shechavla Babala. So that's not exactly the same words of the Tosefta. The words of the Tosefta are Ha'isha Shechavla. It doesn't say V'chein.
Right.
So okay, but one shouldn't be fazed by that. One should just say to himself, okay, so the Gemara did not quote exactly the way that we have our Tosefta, but it's essentially the same words, the same point. And so that right there when the Gemora quoted this part of the Tosefta, this is what we're referring to as the Reisha of the Tosefta. When it says, "V'kein hi shechavla babala lo hefsidas ksubasa." She doesn't lose her ksuba. That's the
Okay,
Reisha.
I'm with you.
That's the Reisha. That's what the Gemara means is the Reisha. Now, if we go further in the words of the Tosefta, if you look inside in the Tosefta, after it says klum, by the way, we don't have that word klum either.
Right.
Then it says ar kashem. That's what we read today. It says ukashem she'i efshar. It's also not exactly the same words. Kashem she'i efshar lo limkor ksubasa v'hi taktov. Just like it's not possible for her to sell her ksuba when she's still married to him because of Reb Meir. Kach ein mafsedes ksubasa v'hi taktov. So too, she doesn't have any hefsid from having to sell the ksuba whatsoever, as long as she's married to him. That's referring to the seifa of the Tosef that's what Rava is referring to when he refers to the seifa.
Okay, so in other words, there is no mention of the male children.
Right, and there also is no mention of any other case either. It's a very general and hence all-encompassing statement about the fact that the woman is never required to sell or have any loss from her ksuba whatsoever for any case.
So what Rava is doing is Rava is saying there's more to the seifa than what it says. You've got to read between the lines.
Right. Rava is making what we call an ukimta. An ukimta means that we are limiting the application of this general statement that the Brisa is making. And we're saying that the Brisa, when it says that she cannot have any loss from her ksuba, is referring to a limited case, and that case is the case of ksubas been indifferent.
Okay,
Right.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, and if you'll ask, why did the Gemora have a havamina that it had? The Gemora's havamina was excellent.
Right.
The Gemora.
Now that I've read it, I see that.
The Gemora's havamina is, it doesn't say there's any. It says that she doesn't lose her ksuba. Period. For any reason. Right. Period.
Right.
So the Gemora had every right to assume that there's no case that she ever loses the ksuba. And the Gemora says, but according to the way we're understanding that we're going with that the whole thing is because we got these two chashashas, and in the case where the ksuba is beyond the statutory amount, we don't have those two chashashas when signs the ksuba to the husband, and therefore we don't understand, says the Gemora. Why would the Tosefta say even in that case that she should not be required to assign the ksuba? Why not? Okay, good.
Take it.
Thank you for walking me through that, Rabbi. It was very instructive.
Good. Baruch Hashem.
Unfortunately, there's no way I could have figured that out for myself. There was too many things you had to know that I couldn't have put the pieces of the puzzle together without help.
Okay, we'll do. Okay.
But maybe in 10 years from now, I'll be able to do that.
Ezra Hashem, even in less time.
All right.
Okay.
10 months.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye, thanks.
Have a nice day,
All the
everybody.
best. Everybody have a wonderful Tu B'Shvat. Good to
Happy
see
Tu
everybody.
B'Shvat.
Be well.